تُولِجُ اللَّيْلَ فِي النَّهَارِ. You stuff. وَلَجَ يَلِجُ, it's, أَوْلَجَ يُولِجُ actually. It's sometimes compared in tafasir that are mukhtasar, that are like abbreviated tafasir, they say أَخْرَجَ يُخْرِجُ. Right? Or أَدْخَلَ يُدْخِلُ actually. To enter something into something else. Like if I put a coin inside a box, or like a can, this is أَدْخَلْتُ. You can even say أَوْلَجْتُ. But let me give you a visual of comparison between أَدْخَلْتُ and أَوْلَجْتُ so you understand this word. I take this napkin and I put it in here. Right? This is أَدْخَلْتُ. But if I took like a t-shirt, a big t-shirt, and I'm trying to stuff it, it's not fitting it, and stuffing it in there, this is أَوْلَجْتُ. Like you don't just put something in, you stuff it in. It's squeezed through a narrow opening and you stick it in. That's ilaj. That's ilaj. Right? Not Urdu speakers, not ilaj. That's ilaj anyway. This is ilaj. Awlaja yuliju ilaj. We say tulijul layla. Allah says tulijul layla fin nahar. We're declaring to Allah, you stuff the night into the day. It's like you force it onto it. You make it take over. وَتُولِجُ اللَّيْلَ فِي النَّهَارِ. It implies the force of the night and the day, the struggle between the night and the day. Other times Allah captures that as اختلاف الليل والنهار. يَعْلَمُ مَا يَلِجُ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَمَا يَخْرُجُ مِنْهَا. He knows what goes deep into, what gets stuffed into the earth. It doesn't want to go in and it's pushed. You have to dig the earth and stick it in and put dirt on top. يَلِجُ فِي الْأَرْضِ. So تُولِجُ النَّهَارَ فِي اللَّيْلِ. And you bring the morning out of the night. You stuff the morning into the night, rather. وَتُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ. And you bring out the living from the dead. You bring out the living from the dead. What does that mean, you bring out the living from the dead? Well, some argue it's the nutfa, the sperm. Some argue it's some mufassirun gave the example of the egg and the chicken. The chicken the egg is in itself dead and then it gives life, etc. Then seeds giving plants, etc. تخرج الحي من الميت. But the most beautiful expression that I found on this explanation of this, inshallah I'll share with you when I'm done with this expression. وَتُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ. And you bring the dead out of the living. You bring the living out of the dead and the dead out of the living. Some describe this as the mother. Sometimes she gives birth to a child and she dies. And sometimes she gives birth to a stillborn. And either way happens. Others said, the most beautiful thing I ever read on this though, it was said by Al-Alusi rahimahullah, sometimes Allah makes believers born of disbelieving families, and sometimes Allah brings disbelievers out of believing families. So in his mind, the living are who? Believers. And disbelievers are as good as dead. That's how he sees it. Subhanallah, it's deep. And that's inspired by a statement in Surah Yasin actually. In Surah Yasin, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, لِيُنذِرَ مَنْ كَانَ حَيًّا. So He may warn those who are really, truly alive. Truly alive. Because those who can't get warned, whose hearts are dead, they're dead then. If they're spiritually dead, that means they might as well be dead. We just see their bodies in good health, but their hearts have decayed and just rotting. So that's the spiritual look at تُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَتُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ وَتَرْزُقُ مَنْ تَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. And you provision whoever you want. You provide whoever you want without any limitation. In this ayah also, so far, تَرْزُقُ مَنْ تَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. Because of this last part of the ayah, we find an interesting advice given by the Prophet ﷺ based on these ayat. Mu'adh radiallahu ta'ala anhu came to the Prophet ﷺ and he was complaining about how much he's buried under debt and he can't get out. He was overwhelmed with debt. So the Prophet told him to recite these ayat. قُلِ اللَّهُمَّ مَالِكَ الْمُلْكِ تُؤْتِي الْمُلْكَ مَنْ تَشَاءُ وَتَنْزِعُ الْمُلْكَ مِمَّنْ تَشَاءُ وَتُعِزُّ مَنْ تَشَاءُ وَتُذِلُّ مَنْ تَشَاءُ بِيَدِكَ الْخَيْرُ إِنَّكَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ تُولِجُ اللَّيْلَ فِي النَّهَارِ وَتُولِجُ النَّهَارَ فِي اللَّيْلِ وَتُخْرِجُ الْحَيَّ مِنَ الْمَيِّتِ وَتُخْرِجُ الْمَيِّتَ مِنَ الْحَيِّ وَتَرْزُقُ مَنْ تَشَاءُ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. And then the Prophet ﷺ told him to add to that this dua that I put on the screen for you students. I'll recite it for those of you that are watching. Ya Rahman ad-dunya wal-akhirah wa rahimahuma. O the most merciful of this world and the next. You're calling on Allah as Rahman, of ad-dunya wal-akhirah, and the one who is constantly merciful to both of them. تُعْطِي مَن تَشَاءُ مِنْهُمَا. You give to whoever you want from both of them. Meaning you give people dunya and you give them akhirah. وَتَمْنَعُ مَن تَشَاءُ. And you forbid whoever you want. You deprive whoever you want. إِرْحَمْنِي رَحْمَةً. Shower me with a special mercy. Show me mercy with a particular form of mercy. تُغْنِينِي بِهَا عَنْ رَحْمَةِ مَنْ سِوَاكَ. Beautiful expression. A kind of mercy that will make me free of need. Free of wanting to have mercy of anyone other than you. What that means, Allah, give me a kind of mercy that makes me so independent that the only mercy I'll depend on is yours, not the one I owe money to. Not somebody else who I'll have to ask them, please forgive my debt, let me go and put a later date, can you extend my deadline, etc., etc. Because right now I depend on their mercy. Oh Allah, give me a special kind of mercy that I don't need their mercy anymore. I just need yours. It frees me from having to want their mercy. Allahumma aghnini min al-faqri. Oh Allah, make me independent of poverty, of bankruptcy. Waqdi anni ad-dayn. And pay off for me this loan. Do away with this loan for me. Okay? And Rasulullah said, if your loan was even the size of the mountain of Uhud, this dua would be suffice. If your loan was the size of the mountain of Uhud. So by the way, I argue every college student should know this dua. Especially every med student should know this dua. Buried under debt. Right? You guys should. Everybody who's going into a home purchase, or they got into some silly car finance deal and they didn't realize what they're getting into, and then they woke up religiously later, better know this dua by heart. You should and sincerely make this dua and memorize these ayat.